What is going on, everybody? It's Alex coming back at you with another video. And today we're going to be looking at a 2022 mock draft from Sam Monson himself. And from the title already, I am going to lose my shit. So if you guys love mock drafts, if you guys love draft content in general, this is your place. Feel free to stop by, be able to stick around, like, comment, subscribe. Go down to the links in the description. Of course, you get to look at all the good stuff on Twitter, Instagram, as well as our Discord community. Feel free to join there. But without further ado, let's kick into this. Of course, if you guys are a student, by the way, or a veteran, you get 50% off regardless. So do that for you guys. Number one, Jacksonville Jaguars get Evan Neal out of Alabama. Yeah, no, that's a great way to start off the draft. I love it. I don't know why Ikem Ekwonu's getting all that hype right now. I don't think he is going to be the number one pick, but I mean, I'm happy to see that other people do like him. I thought I was high on him, right? I was like, dude, I'm gonna put him at 3, like holy shit. And well, I guess that's not out of the question anymore. Now that he has that plus 500 for the number one overall pick. Number two, Detroit Lions going Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. When I do my mock, I'm going to be telling you guys my thought process on why Aiden Hutchinson might slip to 3, but you guys are just going to have to wait for that. But actually, as a matter of fact, I might as well announce it. I'm going to be pre-recording this, but I'm going to be English, right? Sentences. I'm going to be putting up a mock draft up later today. So keep your eyes tuned out for that because I am going to be watching the Senior Bowl. I have virtual access to it. So I get to watch all the good stuff, get to be able to download all the goodies. Very excited for that. So that's going to be taking up a lot of time. So I want to make sure that you guys know you guys are going to have a lot of content still. So we're going to be producing that. And then, of course, we're going to be having our takeaways from the Senior Bowl days. So without further ado, let's continue pushing on. Texans, Kyle Hamilton. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this pick. I love Kyle Hamilton. He's my number 3 guy in the draft. And funnily enough, it's probably in this order. I might be changing that up a little bit, but we'll see from there. But as of right now, this is my top 3. I just don't think the Texans go after a safety. It doesn't seem like the biggest wins above replacement move, and the Texans can go anywhere. You might as well go with someone who could really revamp your franchise. And whether that's Ikem Ekwonu, whether that's going to be Kayvon Thibodeau, you choose. But I would go that route. Jets getting Derek Stingley, obviously PFF has a boner for this guy since he graded crazily well during his true freshman year. Again, he's one, injury prone as all get go, but 2, he's not so talented that he blows guys like Sauce Gardner, Andrew Booth, even guys like Trent McDuffie, which I have a report up on the website, the only one so far, which now that I have a little more time here and there, it's going to become a lot more popular, a lot more popping with those reports coming up. Regardless, Derek Stingley he's nowhere even close to the realm of in a different league compared to those guys. Bottom line, I don't think that going number 4, Derek Stingley, is going to really be a bright move, especially with other players on the board. I really don't think Derek Stingley offers the value that number 4 overall pick does. It kind of sounds crazy to say that. You talk about a year ago, this guy should be like a top 2 pick, but that's just the way it is. If you continue getting injured, if you continue underperforming, there needs to be consequences for that. Now, could he end up being the guy who we all knew he was? Absolutely. And this could be a good pick in the long run. But the value of a corner, unless you're pretty much Jalen Ramsey or in New England where Stephon Gilmore was going off year after year, it's not a 1, consistent position, and 2, just not very valuable overall compared to the value, again, especially this draft, you can get later on. Just top 5 corners don't usually end up being the most impactful in relative to the value of later round corners or later in the first. Spiel aside, monologue aside, Giants get KT here. Obviously should have been the pick at that one. If not, of course, Ikem Ekwonu. But the Giants getting KT, that would be an absolute steal. Ain't no way in hell he falls out of the top 4, though. Panthers going Charles Cross. I think that's a phenomenal move. Again, Ike Ekwonu should be considered there, but I think Charles Cross is a little bit more of what the Panthers would be looking for. It seems to fit a little bit more of the Panthers profile. And I'm just intrigued because, again, this is usually a position where the Panthers get a QB, because that's usually what you do when a head coach is trying to save his job, is saying, hey, give me some time with this quarterback. But a guy like Charles Cross could certainly be the best player on this board. So apparently Charles Cross is Seth Galina's best player in the draft. And that's just a quick way of showing that Seth Galina doesn't deserve to be part of PFF. But New York Giants getting Tyler Linderbaum. Oh, he's so good. He is so good. So the Giants getting KT and Linderbaum, I mean, pop the damn champagne at that point. I think he fits Dable. I don't know however you want to pronounce it. I think it fits perfectly with what he is. And just, I love it. Atlanta Falcons getting Karlaftis. I love it as well. Big fan of that pick. Denver Broncos going Desi. I am not going to put my personal thoughts in here because it'll just become a shit show. Bottom line, Desmond Ridder can't even hit an open target 9 out of 10 times. Why the fuck would he be able to do that at the NFL level? I don't know. Can he work out in the long run? Maybe, but I don't really care about 2.0% turnover worthy play rate. These numbers are just arbitrary. They just estimate how a player plays. Can they be a good guide? Absolutely. But when you watch this guy, he cannot throw to an open target. He can't. There's like maybe 1 out of every 10 passes that are right on the money. And that's not good enough in the NFL. I don't know why people like even Sam Monson think Desmond Ridder is all that. I really don't. You can see my quarterback video to see my full breakdown of him. But genuinely, I have absolutely no freaking idea why anybody believes Desmond Ridder is of the caliber that he is. You watch all of the games, even the good ones against like Notre Dame, those balls, he should have been picked off multiple times. He should have been. And that didn't factor into the turnover worthy play rate. So again, that number means jack. Just, it doesn't seem to make sense. But a lot of these balls should have been intercepted. Like Kyle Hamilton should have had a pick against Desi if Desmond threw it actually on target. So, that's my little rant there. I think quarterback is an interesting position, if not a great position to target for the Broncos. I will say this. If there is a player who is there who is extremely talented, so under this situation, let's just talk about Sauce Gardner even. You could consider him. At that point, I wouldn't. But Derek Stingley, somebody with such a high ceiling, that's ridiculous. Again, I like putting Derek Stingley to the Broncos, just if he ever gets to that point. Kyle Hamilton, etc. You can get, I don't think the Broncos will think that there's as big of a gap between, in this case, Desmond Ridder, but let's just say Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Malik Willis, and versus someone who's going to be in the later first, which might be one of those three, or Matt Corral. I don't think the gap is that large to where you can make up a move and give up maybe a third round pick because you have 2 seconds to move up and select a quarterback and get someone who can really change your team with this pick. So I just don't think the gap is as large between the first quarterback and the fifth as what we probably think. At number 10, the Jets getting Garrett Wilson. They do need a wide receiver. Again, it's hard to track who's still on the board, who normally isn't. But given the offensive lineman off the board, I would consider still offensive line at this point. But the Jets do need an actual impact wide receiver. I don't think Garrett Wilson is going to produce or is going to show enough in terms of his testing numbers to be able to be a top 10 pick. And I love Garrett Wilson. He's my wide receiver one. I absolutely love him to death. At the same time, you have to realize, you have to be critical. And there's guys in this industry that are just all lovey-dovey and think that everything is rainbows and butterflies with every player. I'm not. So if you want someone who can actually be critical, even with the guys they love, I'm your guy. I'm not going to be pessimistic because Garrett Wilson's a freaking phenom. I love him. He's a beast. But there are gaps in terms of athleticism. And that's okay. It's okay for you not to be a burner. But to be a top 10 pick, it's a little bit of a stretch. You have to show that elite athleticism to kind of guarantee some form of physical separation or at least physical contention with the best corners in the NFL. You have to have something that's unique to threaten them. And an all-around really good receiver like Garrett Wilson, who I'm comping to a worse Odell Beckham Jr. or similar to Keenan Allen, that is somebody who needs to be very scheme specific and somebody who either is going to work very well or work very poorly. And usually someone who is unique in one category can transcend a little bit, like Henry Ruggs can transcend with speed, or well, could have. I'm just giving examples of first round dudes, even that weren't that good. He still could offer something in terms of that stretching the field that Garrett Wilson can't really. Still love him. And if it happened, that's okay. And I think I would still support it. Probably just give it like a B minus grade though. Washington football team getting sauce. And that's very stupid. With quarterback, linebacker. Yes, I'm going to say it. Washington football fans, I'm going to say it. Linebacker. And I mean, again, you guys say slot corner is Cameron Curl's position. The guy plays everywhere. You guys have been the ones who told me that. And also, when I get Daxton Hill, he can play safety. He can just play in the slot as well if Cam Curl plays a different position. There's just bigger positions of need than a boundary corner, even though I love Sauce. And of course, quarterback is huge here, especially since you took the 8th best quarterback in the draft and the top 7 are still here. Number 12, the Vikings going to Nakobe Dean. Obviously, you are losing Anthony Barr, which I don't think Nakobe Dean really does much in terms of that role. Obviously, 6'6" versus a 6-footer. Just that'd be a much different situation. I don't like it. Obviously, I was talking to Broshmo about this like an hour ago, but we could look at someone like Devin Lloyd, who could be much more of that all-around linebacker who can blitz, who can cover, who can do good in the run. But I don't really see much of an upside to Nakobe Dean on the Vikings. Like, again, you're kind of having him compete with Eric Kendricks to be the dog on the team, and no pun intended for Georgia Dogs. But I'm just not a fan of the pick. And I love Nakobe Dean. He's my linebacker 1. Just, again, you have to factor in fit. Speaking of a guy who didn't factor in fit, that's Sam Monson talking about Jameson Williams to Cleveland. Just, yes, the talent gap is there. But tell me what, besides doing things a little bit better, does Jameson Williams offer that Anthony Schwartz doesn't? You have guys like Chris Olave that could be a really good separator. Treylon Burks, who is pretty much Deebo Samuel in his own mind. Drake London, who can play inside or outside at a 6'5" frame. This is the one guy who doesn't fit. Like, the Cleveland Browns are lacking a true number 1 and the guy who can play in the slot. And you get the speed receiver. That's the one thing they don't need. So again, I don't understand what's going through people's minds when they do stuff like this. And that's why I do my stuff live, because it's not really fun for you guys just to watch picks or read on this stuff without actually seeing my thought process of why this guy, not this guy. But it's dumb. Like, why? Like, for someone, I have so much respect for Sam Monson. This is why I'm going to be hypercritical. For a guy who's as smart as Sam Monson, this is a dumbass pick. Like, straight up. It doesn't make sense. Now, could it happen? Could I look like an idiot? 100%. And I'll own up to it. But I think the Cleveland Browns realize that they need to get a number 1 wide receiver. And 1, they're not going to take an ACL torn wide receiver at 13. But 2, they're not going to get the guy who is just a slightly better version of what they already have. Like, you're essentially saying we're going to become the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill. Like, you're going to become like a much shittier version of the Chiefs with our Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman. That's not the Cleveland Browns. So I don't get it. Baltimore Ravens getting Ikem Ekwonu here. Of course, yeah, he should have went to the Jets. But, it is what it is. At this spot, if he's here, absolutely. I'd love it. Philadelphia Eagles going Devin Lloyd. They haven't drafted a first-round linebacker since 85. I don't really see that changing. Obviously the linebacker situation needs to be fixed, but this linebacker group is very deep. And again, the Eagles do not have a history, especially in the Howie Roseman era, of drafting linebackers early. It's usually a second it's actually usually a 3rd-round thing. I think it could be a second due to the priority, but I don't think people are starting to factor in draft history enough into these mock drafts. And for people who get mad at me saying, I should have done this, I should have done that, that is Howie Roseman's fault. That's the thing. Hey, my mocks are supposed to be representative of what Howie should do, and then maybe throw in a little bit of like my seasoning on it and just have a little bit more of my own personal touch. I don't think linebacker is going to be a 1st-round pick for the Eagles. It doesn't seem to make sense, especially, again, with the depth of this class where you get Brandon Smith potentially if you want to trade back in the 1st, or else if you want to trade up in the 2nd, or hell, he could be there. You never know. but this is probably not the right move. Eagles gain David Ojabo. I think that'd be phenomenal. Again, a guy who's highly developmental, but bring back Brandon Graham on a 1-year deal. That would be probably prime time. I don't think he gets past the Ravens, which of course, that'd be a very interesting conversation if Ikem as well as David Ojabo are on the board. Chargers going Trent McDuffie here. I think he's a phenomenal fit. I have a late second grade on him, but that's an overall grade. Scheme specific, I think he's probably a late first team like the Chargers. I would not mind this at all. I would still probably give it an A- to a B+. Again, really solid corner, especially in that scheme. Saints getting Sam Howell. I mean, I'm just not a huge fan of drafting a quarterback when I think they should bring back Jameis Winston one more time. Jameis did a phenomenal job, and you need more weapons, and there are some really good weapons in the first. And worst case scenario, you can take a shot on a QB in the second, right? I just don't think that's the brightest move. Philadelphia Eagles getting Drake London. It seems like something Howie could do, but I think Howie wants a little more intrigue. He passed on DK Metcalf before, and a lot of people are comping Treylon Burks to DK. I'm starting to see that connection there. So kind of fixing your past, going somebody else than Drake London would make sense. But of course, if Drake London happens, I would be in support of it. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver and something that finally, unlike what the Browns did in this draft, makes sense schematically. Steelers going Matt Corral. Again, he has one hell of a warrior mentality. I just, again, have other quarterbacks above him, and I feel like the Steelers would as well. 2021, the Patriots, 2021, to number 21, the Patriots go Andrew Booth. He ended off the year really well. He's going to test out phenomenally. I have a weird feeling he's going to be going higher than this. Just, again, with that blend of speed as well as like smoothness of hips, as well as the production, I think that he definitely could be up there in the draft. Vegas Raiders going Chris Olave. I'd be perfectly fine with this. I would be a big fan of it. I think the guy is a very solid route runner and can work as a deep threat. So this team could finally fix their Henry Ruggs situation. Cardinals getting Kenyon Green. I'd be 100% fine with this again. I love Kenyon Green. I think he's being slept on. I think as a guard, if he only wanted to be a guard, this is a good value for him. I have him as a second round player, but he's still better than the other guards in the class. I think as a tackle, he's easily a first rounder, and especially a team like the Cardinals that could use somebody who could sub in at tackle here and there, kind of what you wanted in Josh Jones. This is ideal. Cowboys getting Roger McCreary without the linebackers on the board. I think this is a very unique pick. You know, Jaquan Brisker's still here, and I would 100% go safety. Again, he's a guy who can also play linebacker. I feel like the Dallas Cowboys would like to go back to Penn State and continue developing like a huge Penn State defense there. Just guys who are freaky athletes that can be almost positionless. McCreary would not be a bad choice. I just don't think that they go after having Trevon Diggs. Yes, he put up over 1,000 yards, and I'm not saying Trevon Diggs is the best corner in the NFL. Sorry, Cowboys fans, he's not. He is a big playmaker, similar to Marcus Peters, but he's kind of like a worse version of Marcus Peters. The reason he gets so many picks, because he gets picked on. Just he makes the plays at the right time for the most part. But still, I would not be against this. He can develop with Kelvin Joseph to be a pretty nice trio there. I'm just not that big of a fan of it. And I know you guys wouldn't be either. Buffalo Bills getting Kyrie Elam. It's kind of crazy that he used to be like, he was up there. He was tied with Sauce Gardner for me at like 14, 15. He's just fallen off a bit. Again, he had a really bad year this year, like in terms of what we expected. And that's okay. You know, again, guys can have career resurgences, but the Buffalo Bills, this would be a perfect spot for him. And again, you have really good people there like Tre'Davious White. Levi Wallace is up for a contract, but Teron Johnson even had a pretty good year. The safeties, obviously Poyer, Micah Hyde, great mentors. And then obviously somebody who nobody talks about, Damar Hamlin. I love him out of Pittsburgh. He actually made the 53-man roster, and he actually graded out pretty well for the snaps that he did PFF wise. That guy's going to be a stud. Like when the contract is up for one of the safeties, and I think it's probably, he probably fits best where Micah Hyde is, then I don't think that they should re-sign. I think that with all respect to their safeties that are phenomenal, you have the succession plan already in place. Titans getting Treylon Burks. I would love that. Again, I would consider quarterback here though. but Traylon Burks is on the board. You have to go it. Everybody's saying, why are you drafting wide receiver 3 at this point? One, Julio Jones is never healthy, so you're drafting at worse a wide receiver 2 95% of the year. And number 2, AJ Brown needs some help, right? I mean, he'll have his DK Metcalf all over again. I would be 100% fine with this pick. 27, Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting Jahan Dotson. I'm actually doing my eval right at the moment of Jahan. I'm not that shocked with him. Just he has some good moves. His swim move to get positioning is very similar of Lofton from the Bills when they were going back to the Super Bowl. Just a very solid wide receiver with good IQ. That being said, there are flashes of negative IQ on tape. So I'm not sold on Jahan. I think that he is a better overall wide receiver, but a worse athlete in terms of speed compared to KJ Hamler. So I'm not sold on Jahan. I don't think the NFL will be either. Just a guy, he opted out of the Senior Bowl as well, which is to me a big red flag. You're basically saying I'm not going to be going up against competition where this could make me rise above guys like Chris Olave. That to me is a big ding, but Jahan Dotson is still a solid wide receiver. I have probably a second round grade on him when all is said and done. Packers game Bernard Raymond. Again, I'm not a huge fan of him. He had 33-inch arms, and I already had a problem with his anchor, and I know he has a lot of issues he has to deal with. So even though he performed well enough this year and had some very good flashes, I would be very hesitant to pull the trigger on Bernard Raymond, especially now that he has 33-inch arms. Is that an absolute no-go? 100% not. Like, again, I don't think unless you're sub 32-inch arms that there should be like an actual huge ding, but it is definitely something where if you're already having questions about a player, that certainly doesn't help you. Now, with players like Darian Kinnard, who now have 35, who've been tested out as 35-inch arms, that is something where that makes me feel a lot more comfortable with him at tackle. And that's where I wanted him to be. So that's my little spiel there. Again, I don't think that he should be going at that spot, but Miami Dolphins getting Trevor Penning. Seems like a lot of people are doing this now. I would be a little bit hesitant on the Dolphins going offensive line here. The problem is Trevor Penning is highly developmental on an offensive line that needs someone to actually play well right now. Now, does that mean Trevor Penning can't do that? No, absolutely not. I think Trevor Penning is a solid tackle, but we'll see. We'll see tomorrow, or for you guys today, when all this is happening. So, I mean, we'll see. But I think that there's enough holes in this game to make me worry if I'm the Dolphins, where at this point, if I could trade back, I would. If they can't, again, that's not a bad pick. I'm starting to nitpick here. Chiefs getting Cam Thomas. Again, I think that people are overrating him. We'll see it again at the Senior Bowl. Just, again, when you have all of these insane talents like Jermaine Johnson, Arnold Ebiketie, Kingsley Nagbar, there is no way in hell that you can actually differentiate and make it a definitive list. I don't think Cam Thomas is amongst them. That being said, it's been very hard to find actual Cam Thomas tape, so my opinion is not solidified. We'll see. We'll see this week. So very excited to see that because I know so many people love Cam Thomas, and I'm just not one of them. And of course, Cincinnati Bengals, if you want to see my spiel about why I don't think Daniel Faalele is a great pick in the first round, feel free to go watch my other mock the mock of TDN's mock draft. Bottom line, you shouldn't draft a dude just because he's big. There's a lot of big ass dudes out there. You can grab them up anywhere. Daniel Faalele has a lot of technical problems, and I've been a big Daniel Faalele supporter until he started getting overhyped. Now, in the second round, you can definitely take a shot on him. And this is essentially the second round, but a team like the Bengals, you need someone who can impact right now. Daniel Faalele is far from that. Far from that. So I'm not a huge fan of that pick at all. Lions going Malik Willis here. I mean, I love it. I love it. It's just the perfect way to end off the first round. You have a quarterback under contract for 5 years who's highly developmental, but you have someone like Jared Goff who can teach him the basics of quarterback mechanics. That is arguably the most ideal situation for Malik. But that's going to be the video, guys. Again, just some really stupid picks in here, But again, Sam Monson knows what he's doing. Again, we all make some stupid decisions. I'm far from immune to it, right? But that's just the way the draft goes. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys on the far side. Peace.